The Sumerian legend of Enki and Enlil and the forbidden history of the origin of mankind. According to them, the ancient Sumerian texts refer to the Anunnaki as those who descended from heaven, a powerful race of extraterrestrial beings who projected humanity hundreds of thousands of years ago. Now, this is not the only culture that talks about descending beings from heaven. We have that also in Greek mythology, and they're stating that the ancient Greek mythology stated that the Greek gods of Mount Olympus were actually extraterrestrial Atlanteans. Now, ancient Sumerian texts refer to the Anunnaki as those who descended from heaven, a powerful race of extraterrestrial beings who projected humanity hundreds of thousands of years ago. And the Anunnaki, or those who descended from heaven, were the primary gods of the ancient Sumerians, the Akkadians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, who lived in Mesopotamia, which is now Iran and Iraq. Enki was one of the most significant gods in Sumerian mythology and the patron of the city of Eridu, which the ancient residents of Mesopotamia thought to be the first city established in the world. Enki is responsible for creating mankind, according to this legend, who were destined to serve the gods in the epic of Atrahasis. This Sumerian mythology epic poem covers the story from creation to the Great Flood. Humans, it says, who at this time had long lives, multiplied rapidly, and Enlil, the chief of the gods, was very disturbed by the noise that humans were making and decided to send catastrophes to Earth to reduce the population. And in each disaster, the humans begged to Enki to teach them what to do to survive, according to the legend, of course. Enlil then resolves to send a great flood to wipe out humanity once and for all, and as Enki was unable to thwart Enlil's plans, he descended to Earth to save Atrahasis, whom he considers a just man. Enki ordered and instructed Atrahasis to build an ark to save himself from Enlil's wrath, and all other humans were destroyed in this flood. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box. And according to the legend, after the flood, Enlil suggested creating the human being again, but this time with limitations such as being less fertile, short-lived, and more vulnerable than the previous race. Now here, this legend doesn't talk about any type of an earth change, whereas we know that the book of Genesis of the Holy Bible talks about the rainbow that God gave as a covenant with Noah. And before that, there were no rainbows, meaning that there was a tremendous change in the sun and in the atmosphere of the earth. And again, the longevity of people on the earth after the flood. So there was something that had a tremendous earth change after the flood, during and after the flood. And this legend here does not explain that event. Now, the planet Nibiru, though, Zechariah Sitchin, an Azerbaijan writer, offers a radically different perspective of humanity's origins, as he explains in his book collection, The Chronicles of the Earth. Zechariah Sitchin qualified the Anunnakis as ancient astronauts, and that those who came from heaven, quote unquote, would be an extraterrestrial race of intellectually superior beings who taught the Sumerians about astronomy, architecture, mathematics, medicine, metallurgy, and gave them written language. Sitchin thought that modern Homo sapiens were the result of genetic manipulation, and that the Anunnaki formed the Sumerians by fusing a hominid DNA to their own. And based on the Babylonian poem Enuma Elish, collected on cuneiform clay tablets from the Assyrian king Ashur-banipal library in the Nineveh, Zachariah Sitchin, an expert in ancient languages, begins in reinterpretation of the Earth's creation myth, which has curious similarities with the biblical Genesis. And according to his interpretation, Nibiru, the 12th planet, has a lengthy elliptical orbit of 3,600 years around the Sun and was accompanied by people very similar to us. It was occupied by people very similar to us. And according to Sitchin, one of Nibiru's 2 moons might have crashed catastrophically with Tiamat, an ancient planet between Mars and Jupiter, that split in 2, with one of the parts being thrown into a new 1 millionth of years ago. Now, orbit, along with one of Tiamat's moons, formed the present planet Earth and its moon. Later, in another passage, the planet Nibiru itself would have hit the remnant fragment of Tiamat, which shattered and formed the asteroid belt. After the several collapses, the severe collapse and solving the problems of suffering on the planet, the Nibirians traveled through the solar system searching for gold, of all things. About 450,000 years ago, Nibiru approached the Earth's orbit, allowing some individuals to be sent in airships, spaceships to our planet. They established their bases in ancient Mesopotamia and essential gold deposits in southern Africa, where they found their mines to extract valuable minerals. However, the Nibirian masters did not carry out the mining work, so they sent the Anunnaki people to do this task. The Anunnakis were beings over 10 feet tall, with white skin, long hair, and a beard. Despite their physical and intellectual abilities, they began to be treated as a kind of slaves. For this reason, the Anunnaki soon rebelled against their superiors, their supervisors, and demanded the creation of an inferior being to take their place. The Nibirians accepted the proposal, decided to create a new species, according to the legend, combining their genes with the most evolved primates that lived on Earth. Creation of humanity. At first, Enki and Enlil, who were the chief scientists, designed beings of formidable strength and great size who worked for the Anunnakis in the mines. However, these new beings could not reproduce, so they had to be continually created to achieve optimal production of mineral extractions. Enki and Enlil developed several prototypes of beings until they got one that could reproduce with each other, so the first human species had been created in the form of Homo erectus, according to the legend. Each time Nibiru moved away from Earth, a part of the gods, quote-unquote, returned to their home planet until the end of the 3,600-year cycle, a period that the Sumerians called Sar, S-A-R, while a part of the Anunnakis remained on Earth to manage the gold mines and its new workers. However, the new humans, drawn in the image and likeness of their creators, began to have disputes over earthly issues, forming alliances and rebelling against their masters, just as had happened before with the Anunnaki. Many of them managed to escape the mines and set themselves up as free individuals elsewhere on Earth to start a new but primitive way of life. After 3,600 years, the orbital cycle was completed again, Nibiru approached our planet again, and the Anunnaki leaders returned to Earth, only to find that the situation was out of control yet again. They punished the Anunnaki by making them work in the mines again, and during their brief visit to Earth, they began new experiments to create a new, more perfect race of workers. Thus, the chief scientists Enki and the physician Ninti used genetic manipulation and in vitro fertilization and designed a new species with more significant intellectual capacity, capable of thinking, speaking, reproducing, and creating Homo sapiens. Genesis 5:2, man and woman he created them, and he blessed them and called them by the name of Adam in the day they were created. Therefore, the Hebrew term Adam does not refer to a single man, but rather to the first group of humans called Adamites, or those who are of the earth. According to Sitchin, ancient writings suggest that these quote-unquote gods guided the development of Sumerian civilization, and that the human monarchy was formed to serve as a conduit between mankind and the Anunnaki. After the birth of man, there was still one major issue. The other humanoid beings that had escaped and scattered were expanding and spreading much of the world throughout. And the solution came in the form of a massive flood resulting from the disturbances that were taking place in the solar system for about 12,000 years. The Anunnaki then decided to abandon the planet and leave all of its inhabitants to the flood. Still, Enki, convinced that his most recent creation was too perfect and unique, decided to help and save humans by instructing Artahasis to build a massive ark in a very similar way to the story of the biblical Noah. According to Zechariah Sitchin, Nibiru's last visit occurred in 556 BC, and given its 3,600-year orbit, its return expected to be in the third millennium. However, he believes that the Anunnakis may come sooner, somewhere between the year 2090 and 2370, and that their arrival will coincide with the astrological change from the age of Pisces to the age of Aquarius. This is originally published on Deshi News Post on Collective Spark. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support.